Welcome back, folks. Today I want to start and give you part one of a series that we're going to be doing on the channel here, and it's over concealed carry handguns. And not only the guns that I carry, the holsters that I use, the belts that I use, and how concealed carry is more than just taking a gun and strapping it in your waistband. For the first segment here, what we're going to talk about mainly is the two main guns that I carry the most, how I carry them, and everything that gets included into that rather than just the gun. We'll go over gun, ammunition, holster selection. There may be multiple holsters for the same gun. We'll get into that here in a minute. Belt selection, clothing selection, and how everything plays into that. So without further ado, I want to mention all these guns have been safety checked and cleared off camera before we started. So even though you'll see ammunition on the table, there is no ammunition in the guns themselves. That out of the way, the first thing I want to talk about is the main carry gun that I have and the gun that I've carried for the longest, which is this Glock Model 19. This is a Generation 2 Glock 19. It was made in 1990. It is all original with two exceptions. On my carry guns, on my fighting guns, if you will, my defensive guns, I don't believe in modifying the internals of the guns. Yeah, you can change a couple things, but this doesn't have different trigger bars. It doesn't have different springs. It does have replaced springs, but they're Glock factory springs. So the only two modifications I've made to this gun, we'll get a little closer so you can see here, are the sights and this back strap here. So the sights, and we'll see how well you can see these. These are Ameriglows, and sorry folks, I don't have the screen facing me, so I can't see what you see. But these are Ameriglow sights. They are just as plain Jane sight as you can get. They've got a green or yellow ring, depending on who you ask. I'm colorblind. I don't get wrapped up in whether or not it's green or yellow. It looks green to me. That's what I call it. It's got a green ring with a tritium dot. And the back is just a plain black rear. Nothing fancy. I like plain black rears. I know some people like them to have paint on them. I know some people like tritium, and that's cool. I've got nothing against any of that. This is just my personal preference for these sights. The only other modification is this grip force adapter. These were popular when the Glocks came out originally, especially with the Gen 2s and the Gen 3s. There were a lot of really good names in the industry and in the business who were recommending these. One of the most notable that I saw was Ken Hackathorn. If it's good enough for Ken Hackathorn, it's probably good enough for us. Why the sights? Why did I change the sights? Why not leave them? Well, for as big of a Glock guy as I am, and as much as I love the Glock handgun, Glock factory sights are atrocious and should not be on the gun. Now, I know that line is probably going to kill any chance I ever had of being sponsored by Glock, and I don't really care because I'm not here to gain sponsors. This is all stuff that I use. This is stuff that I already did. Getting into YouTube, I got into it for fun and to share information. I don't really care about making money or having sponsors. I love the Glock handgun. They're one of the most fantastic pistols made today. That being said, the plastic Glock factory sights suck. Now, I know over the years they've come out with some factory night sights, and they've come out with some Ameriglow sights on certain models, and hey, those are all good. I used to have a 19X that had the Glock factory night sights, and those were good sights. They weren't my favorite, but they were good sights. They were usable sights. They were worth the money that you pay. The plastic sights that come on Glocks, not worth it. I've seen them break, I've seen them fall out, and yes, because of the way these sights attach the screw that's used, they can fall out. However, if you attach them properly, if you use the appropriate Loctite and you torque them properly, you don't over torque them, you don't under torque them. I've shot somewheres around 10,000 through this Glock in its current configuration. I've carried this and shot this for a long time. I've never had the sights move unless I wanted them to, and I had them in a sight pusher. So different sights, I consider that the bare minimum for every fighting Glock that I have. Now, I've trimmed out my collection a lot. I'm down to only 4 Glocks. Every one of them's got aftermarket sights. My Glock Model 20 and 10 millimeters got some Trijicon HD XRs. I've got a Gen 3 Glock 19 that's got some XS big dots. And then both of my Gen 2 9 millimeters, both this 19 and my 17 that is just off camera, both feature these Ameriglow green front, plain black rear. So enough on the sights there, you get the picture. The grip force adapter, it places, and remind, these have been safety checked. We're not gonna ventilate a hole through the roof down here in the wall. But it pushes my trigger finger into an optimal position. So I like it. It fills the gap in the hand. Some people have gaps when they grip a Glock, other people don't. To me, it just aligns the gun better in my hand, and it gives me a little bit of a shelf back here. I've got kind of big, thick hands. I did used to get a little bit of slide bite from a Glock. Not enough that it like ripped the skin off my finger, or ripped the skin off my hand, but enough that it was uncomfortable and annoying, and I wanted a solution to it. And this made it grip more like a 1911. For those that don't know, I carried a 1911 before I switched to Glocks. I carried a 4-inch Kimber. We'll get into that another day, and no, you won't see it down here. That gun's been long gone. But so these are the 2 modifications to the gun. Other than that, it is exactly as it came from the factory. I do replace the recoil spring, and I replace the trigger spring per Glock's recommended factory intervals, but I replace them with Glock factory parts. I don't go putting other lighter or heavier springs in, and I don't change them to like the New York 1 or the New York 2 or anything like that. Factory configuration here, folks. So enough on this gun. What are some other things that I use with it? Well, of course, it wouldn't be a gun without magazines. So we've got 2 magazines. This is the carry magazine that is in the gun. It's a standard. This is a Gen 5 magazine. It's got that lip on the front. It's got 15 rounds of Speer Gold Dot 124 plus P. Nothing crazy, nothing fancy. I get a good deal on Speer Gold Dots, so that's what I carry. You know, price shouldn't be the #1 factor when you pick carry ammunition, but it definitely is a factor, and I envy the guy who tells you it's not. And then I do carry a spare magazine. This is I believe a Gen 4 magazine. I don't believe it was a Gen 5. No, not a Gen 5. Gen 3 or Gen 4 magazine. It does have the ambidextrous cuts on it, but I added one of the Glock Plus 2 extensions on it. Now, I didn't add that for the extra capacity because I really don't know that I'm ever going to see the situation where 15 rounds couldn't get the job done, but somehow I was able to get it done with the next 2. The reason I carry this is when it is in a magazine pouch and you go to grip it, I wrap a finger around this ledge that's created here, and it gives me something to hold on to when I pull the gun out, or when I pull the magazine out of the pouch, excuse me. So that's why I carry that. It's not for extra capacity. I've got extra capacity. It's great to have, but that's not the main reason I carry it. Now, why do I carry a spare magazine? I already got 15 rounds in the gun, or 16 if you hot load it. Why carry an extra magazine? Well, we already know that the #1 source of issues from a standard working order polymer frame pistol is magazine related issues, whether it be feeding issues, stovepipes, double feeds, whatever. Most issues that you're going to encounter are magazine related. So I carry this in case of a failure. I don't carry it for more ammunition because I think I'm going to need to shoot more. I can because I have it, but that's not the main reason. I carry this in case I experience a magazine-related failure. I've got a fresh one that I can come straight off the belt and get here. So that's enough about that. And I do only carry 2 magazines, the one in the gun and the spare. I know some people carry more than that. I know some of you are going to think I'm completely out of my mind for ever thinking that I need more than 1 magazine, and I don't. It's not why we're carrying that. So what's my other carry gun? I have 2 big carry guns, or I shouldn't say big. I have 2 guns that I carry the most. This Generation 2 Glock 19, and then my Smith & Wesson Model 36 Chief Special. Nothing fancy. The only upgrade this gun's got is I put some Altamont grips on it, a BK grip adapter. The original ones were called the Tyler T's. There's been some issues with Tyler grips. They're still in business. There's just some shipping and production issues. I believe I got these BK grip adapters off eBay. I've got several for the J, K, K&L and end frame, so I've got several of them laying around. But they give you a little more to hold on to without making the grip so large that it's obtrusive. And for me, you'll notice my pinky hangs underneath. Would it be nice to have a grip on there where I could get all 3 of my support fingers on there? Yeah, it would. But then you've got about that much grip sticking off the bottom of it. And that's not a huge deal when you're carrying it on your waistline, but it does become very, very noticeable when you're carrying it in the ankle, or in an ankle holster. The only other thing I have on here, and it's kind of coming off, it may be a little hard for you to see, there is a little bit of glow-in-the-dark white paint. It's some sight paint. Forgive me, I don't remember the name of it. You can get it on Amazon, Midway, Brownells. They're all virtually the same thing regardless of which one you get. It's just some white paint that helps me see the sight a little bit better, and in the dark it grows a little bit. Some of it's come off the top from drawing it in and out of the holster. I'm not super worried about it. This isn't a long range gun. I want to be able to see my sights, but you know, per our last video, we talked about doing long range revolver work. This probably ain't going to be the one you're seeing do that. So a Glock 19 and a Smith & Wesson Model 36. And yes, I know there's newer models. I believe that one was made in like 1955. I know there's the Airweight series. I used to have an Airweight series, a 637 Performance Center. I carried that for a little while. I know there's the new Ultimate Carry series. I love the idea of the Ultimate Carry. I've not handled them in person. Would love to have one, but again, it's one of those things, I'm not made of money and I don't have that special tree in my backyard that's got it hanging off of it either. So those are the 2 guns. You see one other gun in here. We'll get into that here in a little bit. Now I want to move on to holsters. The main holster that I use for the Gen 2 19, or it's not specific to Gen 2 19s, you can use them with any 19, and some 19 reproductions, clones, whatever you want to call it, they'll fit in this too. This is a Kramer holster. It is a number 2, I believe. It does not have a model number on it, and it's been years since I bought it. It is the holster that the folks over at Kramer Gun Leather originally designed for a Glock 19. Rumor has it, per their website and per some stuff that I've heard in the industry, there were some folks who carried guns professionally. They wanted a inside the waistband concealable holster. They got with Kramer. He made this model. This one, what makes this special is, and you might be able to hear this here, it sounds almost as solid as a Kydex holster. And even when you go to holster the gun, I don't know how well you all can hear that, but it kind of snaps in there at the bottom. Why is that? One, Kramer uses a pretty thick leather to do this. 2, the leather he uses is not cowhide, it's actually horsehide. This is black horsehide, and then he molds it, he does some reinforcements. Another notable thing that he does is there's holes in here. So I've got it adjusted down to the smallest size, but you can adjust it up if you've got a thicker belt. Years ago, I used to carry a Galco 1 3/4 belt, and I was able to use this holster with that belt. So this holster works out really well. It's got this nice paddle that sticks off the back, which just gives you a little more stability. It kind of keeps the gun tucked in on your side. It makes it hug right around your hip really nicely. This is a very comfortable holster. My favorite Glock holster that I've tried, and Lord knows I have tried plenty. If I'm not carrying inside the waistband, if I'm carrying outside the waistband, but I still want to carry my Glock 19, I have a Galco Combat Master, which is essentially a pancake style outside the waistband. Nothing too crazy going on with that. I would show you all that, but it's currently on loan to my brother because he just bought a new Gen 6 Glock 19, so he kind of stole that one for a little bit until I get it back. But this is the holster that I carry the most. Speaking of Galco, let's talk about the Model 36 holster. This is a Galco ankle glove, and I've got the extender on there. I've got some pretty thick legs, pretty thick ankles. I needed the extender, especially if you're going around a boot or around a shoe. The extender for me was kind of necessary. Some of you may not need it, and hey, cool if you don't. Things to note about this holster. One, you've got this Sherpa lining here on the inside. It doesn't make your ankle sweat too much, or at least it doesn't mind, but it does give you some nice padding in there to keep it from kind of rubbing, especially if you're carrying it right over the top of the ball of your ankle. That can be a little uncomfortable. So this Sherpa lining does a really good job. And then you have a thumb brake up here. You can order these without the thumb brake. You can get them as just an open top. The thing I don't really like about the open top is there's no way to adjust the tension on these holsters. So kind of what you get is what you get. And I know there are some methods out there for tightening up holsters. I'm not really interested in doing that. I've tried them before on some other holsters and it just wasn't my thing. So this thumb brake keeps the gun secured, especially, this is made for just a 2-inch J-frame. Different J-frames, whether or not you got a hammer or whether or not you have an internal shrouded hammer, it doesn't really matter. This thumb brake situation allows you to keep all of them pretty secure, at least all the ones that I've used. So pretty solid, pretty basic holster. Didn't really reinvent the wheel with it, but they did make a very good product. This is my favorite ankle holster that I've tried. There are some other ones out there that I've heard are fantastic that I just haven't tried. And again, maybe someday we'll get there. But for now, I've been carrying this holster for 5 years and I have no problem with it. It's got some marks on it. It's got some scars on it, but it still works perfectly fine. Here's where we get into that 2 holsters for the same gun type of thing. This can be another ankle holster, but that's not what I have it for. This is from Doc Barani Gun Leather down in Dunn, Texas. This is what he calls the Barani boot. And essentially all this is, it's one thickness gun leather. If you look at the top of it, it does not stay open, but there's a reason for that, folks. So it's one thickness gun leather. It's got a little bit of a tag in down here to help with stability. And then it's got one of the Ulti-Clip belt clips. Those of you who use a lot of Kydex holsters, you're probably familiar with these. The thing about this is if you're wearing a thinner style boot, like a thin shafted work boot, a cowboy boot, a Chelsea boot, something like that, you've got enough space in here where you can just tuck this inside the boot, clamp it down, and I've never had this come off. But that's not the main thing I use it for. I don't know how well you guys can see this on camera, but I'm wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. It's finally warmed up enough to where I was able to go for a walk this morning where I live. And this holster allows you to tuck it in the waistband of your sweatpants or your gym shorts or whatever other pants you might be wearing that don't have belt loops or that you don't wear a belt with. And this allows you to still have a gun on you. I've carried this in gym shorts and a t-shirt, sweatpants and a t-shirt. I've carried this with a suit on. This is a very concealable holster. There is a little bit of space right up here. So if you had to tuck this holster, you could. It's not necessarily designed for that, but you are able to do it in a pinch. And that's how I got away with wearing suit pants and a dress shirt, is I tucked it in between there, and it kept it pretty concealable. No one ever noticed I had a gun on, and I think I was at that function for maybe 4 or 5 hours, and no one ever knew. Now let's talk about that one thickness gun leather. So outside of your pants, just having the holster, you just plop the gun in and it works pretty well. The problem with this is, and Doc acknowledges this on his website, it's not necessarily a problem, it's just a thing you got to know and work around. When you pull this out of your waistband, this holster wants to fold up, and you're going to have a real hard time shoving that thing back in there. So Doc Morani recommends that you do not leave this in either your waistband or in your boot and try and reholster your gun. That's why it's got this clip on it. Take the clip off, put the gun back in the holster, and re-clip it. Or if you can't do that, you know, let's say you're in a parking lot leaving your favorite grocery store at 10 p.m. and something goes down, you got to pull your gun. You pull your gun out. You don't have time to go fiddling around with your holster. Just shove your gun in a pocket. It at least gets it out of your hands, so when the cops show up, they don't shoot you because they think you were the one starting the problem. Or you don't have someone else in the parking lot who thinks they're coming to save the day and shoots the wrong guy. For those that don't think that's happened, there's documented cases of it. Go look it up. I believe Massad Ayoob did a whole video surrounding that type of thing. So if you're curious on that, go check out his stuff. He's very well versed in the law behind shooting and whatnot. He's a far better resource than I'll ever be. So you've got this holster, which I carry in my waistband with either dress pants, sweatpants, gym shorts, or something like that, or the ankle holster. Now, I do have a magazine for my revolver, and some of you may say, a magazine for your revolver? Revolvers aren't magazine fed, they're fed from a cylinder. This is the Revo Mag or Revo Mag, depending on who you ask. It is essentially a magazine that feeds your revolver. And the way this works is you tilt your gun forward, you place a round in, and you squeeze the tabs. Now, we'll get more in depth on this. I've got a specific review coming up on this. Full disclosure, I did not pay for this. This was sent to me by Revo Mag. He knew that eventually I'd be spending some time with it and getting a review out on it. So I did not pay for this. There was no mention of it has to be a positive review. He did not say anything about the review or testing process. All it was, hey, I'm interested in your project. And he said, would it help you out if I sent you one for the review? So he sent me one. There was no expectation of anything being said positive or negative, just that I was going to review it and give some publicity. So you've got your revolver, and we're back to being unloaded. So you've got your handguns, whether it be your Glock or the Model 36. You've got holsters for inside the waistband, outside the waistband, ankle carry, or non-traditional carry like sweatpants carry, inside the boot carry, something like that. Now here's where we get to the heart of it all. What makes a good concealed carry system? And that is your belt. You need to have a dedicated concealed carry belt. This one is a Core Essentials belt. It has this ratcheting track inside the belt, and essentially you run the belt through, you hear those clicks, there's a little button you press, and out it comes. The Core belts have been the belts that I've been using for the past several years. I got into them originally. I needed a new belt, and I saw they were, I think at the time I got it for like 50, 60 bucks. I don't know what they run now. I haven't bought one in a long time. But you cut them to fit. They send you just a strap of leather. You cut it to where you need it. You attach the buckle of your choice, and you're ready to rock and roll. I like those belts. They have a hard plastic inner liner, and you can see that when you buy the belt and you cut it, you have to cut through that plastic liner. It keeps everything pretty stable. Is it perfect? No, but you also have to keep in mind, by today's standards, this is a large concealed carry handgun. You know, I know the ultra compacts and the micro compacts are super, super popular now. And I'm not here to tell you what you can or cannot, or what you are right or wrong for carrying. What I am telling you is what I carry and why. This gun is a little heavy to be carrying on that belt. It does it, but it just sags a little bit. Not the end of the world. Never had my pants fall off from it. Never had anything crazy like that happen. But it is something you should know. The reason I stick with the core essential belts for right now is because you can cut them and go smaller and smaller. I've talked about this a little bit in the past, but I've gone through a huge weight loss journey. I've lost over 100 pounds so far. And yes, for as big as I am right now, I was 100 pounds heavier at one point. So I don't have to keep buying new belts. I just buy one strap of leather, and every few months I cut it down a couple inches, and it all works out. Eventually, when this is all said and done and to where I want to be, and I know I'm going to stay there, I'll probably buy a Barani gun belt or a Barani pant belt that's designed to carry your gun with. So that kind of gives you a brief idea of what all I got going on for concealed carry. And I know we said we were going to split this into multiple parts. I was planning on covering this stuff in different parts, but you see, I just kept yapping, and that's not the way it happened. Don't worry, this will be a series as far as what are some of my daily use guns, or the guns that I have in my rotation. This will become a series. So that is some of the information that I've got. That's what I use. If you guys have questions, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to know what you're carrying. Do you carry spare ammunition, or are you hard against it? Do you carry a backup gun, or do you think that's stupid? Jump down in the comments, let me know. But until next time, folks, this is Chuck with Practical Marksmanship Reloaded.